Hi guys, I think so we have people in the room and we'll get started. So thank you again guys for joining on Friday afternoon to the knowledge session of the digital transformation series of the Digital Fifth. So in this session, myself and one of my colleagues, Deepak Sai, will be guiding you through that different aspect of the program management, primarily to how to drive your digital transformation initiatives, right? So, but before that, just quick introduction from my side. Myself, Shashank, Shekher, taking care of the consulting and at the Digital Fifth. Prior to that, I have worked with L&T Infotech and the Wipro, primarily managing the technologies, advisory services, as well as the cybersecurity and the governance projects. Then I joined in DCB Bank, where that I was responsible to run the entire the PMO for all the technology and the digital project initiatives, the governance, then managing the IT infrastructure, the data center. Then also the managing the digital banking, driving multiple digital initiative, including launching the omni-channel framework, and then also the building that open banking framework and setting the entire the API management platform. So and then also go on to manage that setting up the entire the data analytics structure. So that's where the DCB, and then I used to work with Samir Singh Jani, who's the founder and CEO of the Digital Fifth. He was the CTO there, and then he started this firm, the Digital Fifth, which is I'll talk about the company's subsequent slide. And then I joined him and working with here, I'm working with banks and the different fintechs and startups, helping under the various technology and digital initiatives. So with this quick, Deepak, if you can have just quick introduction from your side.
So, Shashank. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our knowledge session series. I'm Deepak, and I've been associated with Digital Fifth for over 2 years now. And prior to my experience, I was working in the development field of analytics. And I also have specializations in machine learning as well as on data science aspects. So in the last 2.5 years with Digital Fifth, I've been working on several transformation projects, and I've also been for the banks, and I've also been helping several fintechs transform themselves into a really new age fintech platforms. So looking forward to interacting with you all and taking the session forward.
Thanks, Deepak. So guys, the Digital Fifth is a fintech and digital consulting startup in the country. We're trying to create a niche Indian consulting firm, primarily focusing on the BFSI industry. So that's where that we have been positioning ourselves. We also conduct our event. So our first event was the Bharat Fintech Summit that we executed in Hyatt in Mumbai, with massive response from the audience and the participation from the industry. And we're coming back again with our event in the February 2024. So keep looking at that our newsletters and our website for more details, right? There's just a snapshot of our customers, where that multiple customers we would have worked on the various digital transformation initiatives and managing those programs. We are predominantly into the 4 service areas. The consulting is our key, where that we work with the banks and the fintechs, helping them into the building the digital strategy, digital transformation projects, building that product, digital product management, driving the product journeys, customer journeys, connecting the benchmarking, so all sort of activities, including the program management, right? And then we do lots of the partnership, where many of the fintechs or the startups or the banks at times, like they're looking for the partnership within the industry, where that we come as a help as an enabler, intermediary to connect both the parties. We also do lots of the recruitment services, where that help banks or the fintechs to hire the senior positions. So that's where that we provide recruitment services. And we do lots of the training in the B2B corporate side, where we run through the multiple training programs for the corporates. These are the quick consulting services that we do, where that digital advice services, where from the benchmarking to the building the digital maturity models, then digital strategy, the roadmap development, building the customer journey. So you may have that full digital or partial digital or the manual processes, and we can come and help you to redesign the journeys and aligning it completely digital. Driving the program management for any of your transformation initiatives or multiple transformation initiatives that we do. Then we also help into the digital solution development. Like, say, for example, you're trying to build an omni-channel framework, or say, for example, you're trying to build an API management stack. So we can come and help you to building that entire the solution model and the platform evaluation. So then open banking advisory, we do lots more work into building the entire open banking strategy, building the partner onboarding process, the API management processes, in building the API strategy, everything that we work, and also helping into the building the different business model for the banks on APIs and with fintechs. There are lots of the work we do with the fintech and startup advisory. We are helping the business building the go-to-market, providing the technology services, developing the business and platform models for embedded finance. Then we do a lot more work in the security and compliance services as well. Like, for example, recently the outsourcing of technology services, the guidelines which came from the RBI to providing the compliance services against those guidelines, or say, for example, any of the regulatory compliance in the digital space or the technology space, we help the banks or the NBFCs or any regulated entity to get compliant to those processes, which will also include that entire the design of the control frameworks, including policies, processes, risk management, and everything. And then we do lots of work in the research and content management, where we work with the partners, where we help into the content developments. There's a quick training services that we do, and some of this entity that we would have conducted the multiple trainings, like Central Bank of India, we would have trained more than 500 employees across the training on the digital. And this is just a snapshot for us to know that we are coming with our own certification program in the entrepreneurship. It's a 3 weeks, 3 Sundays programs of the 4 hours each, which is covering that the different dimensions of the entrepreneurship, which include like how do you start, how do you build your teams and the product design, how do you going to fundraise and the managing of finances, what are the launch essentials that you need to focus upon, and once you have launched the services that your business, and how you strategize your growth and scale. So with this, we'll just come to start on the session. So this program is a part of the 4 series agenda. So where the first session we have already taken on the digital transformation overview. This session is focused on the program management, and subsequently we go and do the third session will focus on the maturity model, digital strategy, and also how the entire landscape for the core banking is changing from the digital transformation perspective. Keep note of our LinkedIn handles or our website or our newsletter to get an update on the timelines and the dates for these sessions. So with that, guys, I'll just get started on the digital program management, right? So if you try to summarize that what's happening in the digital space, right? There is a continuous demand of the digitization across all sectors, and BFSI is not aloof, right? It's been widely impacted because of the digitization, which is part of the growth in the smartphone, the internet, the customer expectation, different models. I think everywhere the BFSI segment is heavily digitizing the services or the products. Then also that continuous growth in the digital infrastructure at the country level, right? If you look at today's India is pretty well placed in terms of the digital public infrastructure, from the Aadhaar, you look at it from the account aggregator to GSTN to across everything you touch upon it. There's a very strong digital infrastructure that country is there, which allows the banks and everybody to adopt those public infrastructure and build the different customer journeys, design the digital product, and also focus on the delivery, right? Digital products are very critical to the entire omni-channel delivery, right? So that's where the digitization is happening. And look at, and these are primarily contributed, like there is an increased adoption of mobile applications. Banks are spending heavily into the data analytics, and that's primary adoption and the use of the analytics is across all the industries. Banks are testing AML use cases to improve service offerings, increase adoption of the SaaS platform. So these are the different dimensions of the digital programs that we see. So this was just given a context that industry is completely going through the digital activities like digital transfer and digital projects and all these things. So from the bank's perspective, we try to know what are the different digital transformation initiatives you will have. Like when you set up the entire digital strategy, and when you try to lay down the different initiatives as a part of the roadmap, it could be some of the processes might be running in parallel, or some of the processes might be in the sequential manner, right? So look at that. What are the typical transformation projects are there? Sorry. So you definitely, one of the first and very basic that you will do, that you will try to lay down your digital strategy. Like, and we'll in the next sessions of this series, we'll be focusing more on how to build your digital strategy, right? Another initiative, like you may try to transform the entire your lending processes, right? So for that, you will try to deploy that digital loan origination system and the loan management system, where like from the entire the customer onboarding, acquisitions to onboarding, to the underwriting, to the dispersal, to the collection, you're trying to manage that. And it may vary from across the platform, product to product, right? You may have a different LOS platform for the retail lending products like personal loan, or say, for example, credit card, or for the business loans, like say, for example, term loans, or you talk about it, or the CCOD or the working capital loans, right? And because of that, banks may have the multiple LOS. So that's where that one of the core initiative that, and this is just example, you may have abundant of the different initiative, right? API product and management. So it could also involve like you maybe setting up the entire API management platform, or you might have set up the entire API management platforms, including your ESBs and the API gateway. Okay, and that could be one of the major initiatives, or you already might have the infrastructure. Now you're trying to build that entire stack of the API. So you may be running the multiple initiative to build the stack of the APIs, which you maybe want to use internally, or you want to make it available for the third party. Let's say, for example, lending set stack of the APIs, or you may be trying to build a deposit stack of the APIs. So that those kind of the initiative will be there. You may be also putting up the initiatives to just to improve the digital experiences across all the platforms, be it on the mobile banking. So driving that entire the design thinking approach, the UI/UX building up, or the completely different initiatives within your banking services, the BFSI transformation, maybe on the building on the wealth side of it, or product development, and also maybe the regulatory and licensing reviews. And there could be many more, like you may be also upgrading your platforms, or you may be migrating to the different platforms. Let's say, for example, your core banking platforms is a legacy infrastructure, right? Either you may try to upgrade it to the latest versions to support your digital agenda, or you may be completely migrating into the next generation of the core banking platforms. You may be rebuilding the entire stack of the payments infrastructure so that it can support digital initiatives. So these are some of these initiatives which may fall into digital transformation projects, right? And why we're talking about, we just want to give you in a sense that, okay, these are some of the things that you will looking into it, right? When you're looking at the program management part of it. Okay. And why you're doing the digital transformation, like why these initiatives, what are they going to contribute? They definitely, it involves that integration of the apps, data, and the processes, right? It helps you to streamline your entire operation from the customer onboarding to customer servicing in the backend services. Everything is streamlined because of you building those projects into the place, right? It brings that lots of the adaptability, the flexibility in the customer service delivery, product development, product management, partnership. So that's where it makes you ready from the digital initiative perspective, your digital agenda perspective. It helps you to do that, right? Then also it's definitely enhance your entire the customer relationship. At most, the customer is the advantage. Look at that when the fintechs came into the existence. Fintech trying to change the landscape by providing the financial services with a strong customer engagement, right? And that's where the process they try to improve the customer relationship. They didn't have the advantage of the trust factor which the banks or the other regulated entities might have earned over a period of time through their brick and mortar structure, right? It was, but the fintech came as a physical, it's completely digital based kind of the infrastructure and building that kind of the relationship engagement, right? So this digital initiative that banks or the regulated entities takes completely influence your customer engagement. And that definitely it's going to help your brand reputations, help you to managing the various reporting, the compliance structure. So these are some of the briefing that advantage that it brings on the table. But why you require a program management, right? Why you need to have a very structured approach to drive these projects? And as I said, many of the projects may be running in parallel or may have the interdependencies on each other, or maybe running in sequential manner, right? And these are all are in complex nature, right? So that's why you require a digital program management. But what are the factors that is definitely forcing you to have put up in a proper program management structure? First thing foremost, right? Very important. These are complex. These are not in straight line process kind of the projects, right? These are really complex, and it involves multiple disciplinary team structure to that. Like, for example, you're building a digital LOS, right? Look at that one single project that I'm going to talk about it. So there that you require the lending product teams, like you will have the credit products like personal loan or say, for example, business loan guys into the place. You'll have the entire the credit team into the place because that's where they bring that credit expertise, that writing the underwriting logic and all these things. So those guys will be there. You will have the entire operations team because they focus on the dispersal, the customer backend servicing and all these things. Then entire your Salesforce team because they go and acquire the customer into market. Then definitely your tech team because the tech team need to provide them kind of the entire infrastructure, entire the tech support and the backend integrations. Then also look at that you will require digital teams, because there will be digital lending teams who will also get involved into building the journeys. And these are the core teams, but at the same time, you'll require the risk guys. Sorry, you'll require the risk guys, you will require the compliance guys, you'll require the security, legal and everything. It's become a hell out of a task. And then definitely you will have the partner in place, right? Because you may not try to build it completely LOS on your own, or you may be trying to build on your own also. Even if you're trying to build on your own, now you may require to have the multiple interfaces with the various enablers in the market, like somebody providing the KYC API, somebody providing the bureau API. So those are the partnerships that you will require to do that. Tax system bring that entire the complexity in the picture, which you can only manage if you have a proper program management structure. Sorry. Then these are the time sensitive projects. Like digital initiatives can't go on running on the long period. Like you can't have the 12 months or 18 months or 24 months kind of the agenda. Then you are on to implementations. These are time bound that you need to get it live in the certain time frame. So that's where that again the challenge of the program management requirement is there. Most of the digital initiative has a direct impact on the customer delivery, customer engagement, customer servicing, everything. So you need to make sure that what are the time frame, what are the projects that you're going to bring into the table. It provides a better impact to the customers in terms of the customer engagement, in terms of the customer experience, in terms of the business part of it. While customer impact is there from the engagement and everything, it directly correlates to the business. So all these projects which we are talking about has a direct impact on the business. Today, if you look at the digital is like an extended part of the business strategy, or maybe it's the business strategy itself, the entire the digital. So what are the initiatives that you're talking about in the central corner have a direct impact on the strategic business expansions, right? So for example, cross upsells kind of the scenarios, or completely digitizing that entire the processes and acquire the customer more. You improve the tax, right? Entire the reducing the cost of the customer acquisition. So everything is a direct impact. And the last not the least, some of this very important is that you need to bring that entire the oversight from the management as a part of these initiatives, because these are multiple projects that you're running in parallel. Multiple teams are involved, multiple milestones will be there. How are you going to provide that oversight? And now, since the digital is a part of the board agenda, you also need to continue to report it to the board, right? It's not only the executive committee where that you continue to report. Board also you need to continue to report into the entire program. And regulatory supervisor like RBI's or the NES respective regulators get into the too deep understanding that what are the digital initiatives that you are running, digital programs that you are running, and how you have been running into that. Look at that the draft guidelines which came in the last September, which is talking about that entire IT governance, information security, and the team management, where the one section is talking about that how you are driving your projects. And these projects are primarily talking about the technology projects or the digital projects. So how you are driving these projects, are the projects are delivering to the outcomes that you have decided upon, how the boards are reviewing those projects, how the managements are reviewing those projects. Now, this is coming from the regulators. So when they come for the supervision, they try to look at that, how you have been managing these projects. So these are some of the dimensions which makes it that having a strong program management is very critical to run those central initiatives that I'm talking about in between. So this is just a snapshot. I don't want to get into detail. This is like, again, like you may try to break down into the different aspect of the projects. So some are will be very deeply digital, some will be a quasi-digital, right? Which will have some manual human interventions, human angle to attach. While some of the initiatives may have a completely digital involvement, so especially more from the product perspective, right? So look at that digital lending product journey, that gold loans, BNPL link. These are the full-fledged digital could be there, right? Or some partly digitals, right? Then there was like POS, wallets, B2B payments, commercial cards. These are like completely in the deeply digital. Some of this fintech partnership again will be quite on a deeply digital kind of thing. So these are like some of these dimensions. Don't need to go into too much of the details, right? Now coming back to the, we understand that program management is required. I'll talk about the processes as we move. But what are the teams that you will require when you're running a program management office to run these digital transformation initiatives, right? So definitely there need to be a strategic team involvement in place, right? The guys who understand that impact, they can correlate that outcome, that they can understand that what is the KPIs that each of the projects is relating to. So strategic team involvement, strategic team members are there. Since as a technology, you can't take away the development part or the integration. So there has to be development and testing environment to be created, right? Then you require the entire the budgeting and the financial management tools that help, because these are high cost elements, right? It may have the cost overrun, it may have that certain cost spot in the process, right? Some of the new dimensions get added into the projects. How are you going to oversee that entire the budgeting part of it and the financial management? So you may require some kind of the tooling support into that, right? And then data analytics tools also may required for you to manage those, some of this reporting structure. Like say, either you use a very strong program management tools, which can start talking about like, okay, what kind of the schedule variances are there? Are you running in the schedule adherence or the cost overrun, including the effort management, effort overrun? So those are the different analytics that you may require to understand. Very important, the entire the communication and collaboration. Since you will be running the multiple team structure, multiple tracks and all these things like tools like Slack, which the fintechs typically will be using it. Those kind of the tools will be very handy, right? Which will allow you to keep on sharing the information, because every information you may not like to get it on the WhatsApp, right? You would like to have a close set of the communications or the Jira, right, which will probably help you to understand that what are the project's different next milestones are there, where the dependencies are there, when the next release are there. Those information that you try to understand through the better communication and collaboration tools. Then since it's all involves the multiple projects, right? Every project will have its own timelines, outputs, milestones. So you require a proper project management tools to start managing uh, those tools and all these things, right? So project management tools become very critical. And then entire the documentation and knowledge management, cybersecurity resources, because digital, when you talk about the digital, there is always a risk element involved with respect to data breach, data security, because once the outcome came, when it goes live, you need to make sure that risk aspects have been taken care. So keep on bundling those security elements into the process itself. So these are the typical, some of these example of the resources which may require. So what I'll do that I've been running for the last 20 minutes straight through, but I'll take a pause and maybe ask for questions, guys. If there are any questions, either you can put your question in the Q&A section, or please raise your hand and then we'll enable the mic for you to ask the questions. So I'll take a pause and we'll see if any questions are there or anybody wants to ask any question. Any question, guys? Any question? Okay, so not I'll continue. Meanwhile, my team has already put in a feedback form, guys. Request you to as you continue on the sessions, please put up your feedback forms, because it helps us to continue to improve. We keep on getting a good feedback from you, and that keeps us motivating to keep on coming with the new knowledge sessions, right? And keep on exploring new topics. So thank you. So I'll just get started. And meanwhile, again, request, if you have any question, put up in the Q&A sections, or you may raise your hand and then I'll ask questions. Yeah, I hope you can see. Now, I've already spoken about some of the different aspects that why do we require this digital program management, but let's look at some of the change management challenges right on the ground, and it's actually reality. And I've run umpteen number of the programs, including like setting up the omni-channel framework, or say, for example, deploying the entire the API management stack, building the different APIs tracks. Okay, so I've run lots of the projects, and just these are all experience coming from that experience, and then talking about the challenges. Like first and foremost, technology complexities. Since we are talking about the digital, you will find lots of challenges. Like, so for example, when you start deploying in the journeys, and suddenly you will find that a certain application or the backend application doesn't have the API support to that. Now, how are you going to do that, right? Some of the application, the integration may have a challenge, right? Or maybe, and when the technology support check complexity comes, it also will include about that different platforms is being developed, right? And it could be also the counterparty technologies, right? Since you are building your technology stacks, which may also have a dependency on the third-party integration. So those are the typical challenges which are there, which makes those programs very complex, right? So technology complexities definitely try to derail your programs, and it's becomes very critical when you're starting that your entire any of digital transformation initiative. Think from the architecture perspective. Even if you're an upgrade, right? For example, any platform upgrade that you are going, be it on the core banking or be it on your mobile banking platform upgrade or anything, look at your architecture, look at your all the interfaces which are involved. When you have the complete view of that entire interfaces, the data flows on paper drawn out, it gives you clarity that where your dependencies could be, where your challenges could be, right? When you're driving like for mobile banking and certain of the places, you could see that certain functionality, like for example, wealth related functionalities, there is no APIs, right? Because there is no direct interfaces with the third party. So once you identify that maybe the wealth may be like for example 6 months down the line that you may be releasing the APIs, can you start working into bringing the wealth platform, the backend platforms up so that by the time the wealth services that need to build on the mobile banking, you already have the readiness available. So first and foremost important of most of the digital initiative guys, I will always request that put up an architecture in place in front of it. It will help you. Then entire the vendor and supplier management. Oh, this is again a massive pain, right? And especially when you're running a massive digital transformation program where that you may be running 30, 40 programs, you may require multiple vendors. Let's say, for example, very simple mobile banking platform implementation, right? Or say, for example, you're talking about corporate internet banking implementation, just couple of. Right. Now, what are the things that you require to interact with? You will also need to interact with the core banking platforms. You will require to the API management partner. You will require to the, let's say, for example, loan management systems. And whenever there are multiple systems are there, there is a different partners to that, right? So working very closely with so many partners for one single initiatives. And then on top of the things, you will require a testing partner, you will require an like cyber security partner, you will require an audit partner. Then again, your list keeps on growing and all this thing, and everybody will have in a different dimensions, different challenges. You need to keep on managing those challenges, anticipating those challenges, keep on working your resolution structure for those challenges, right? So vendor and supplier management is very critical. Technical support and the issue resolution. Many times you will find that one particular issues may completely derail the entire programs because you are not able to find a solution. Whether the, like for example, the API integrations is doing, and suddenly the CISO demands that, okay, right, you can't run on the static token. I'm just bringing some of the jargons, but to give you the correlations to the challenges and the ground challenges. Many of you are driving the different initiatives, you will understand those some of the challenges. So let's say CISO comes back and tells that, okay, you can't do that static token, you need to go through the dynamic token structure. Now, either the counterparty may not have the sufficient technical skills or may be finding it complex to build the dynamic token structure. Now, it could be either the technical related issue, it could be human related issue, it could be the policy, but you need to find out a solution as fast as possible. So it's always better that try to anticipate those issues. So program management structure try to help you to start anticipating those issues much in advance. Then different stakeholder engagement and alignment. As I spoken about the previous slide, again, most of these digital initiatives has a multiple stakeholders involvement, right? Multiple alignment you will require. Like, so for example, one BRD, one of the projects that we're working, and one BRD has to be run with the 5 different stakeholders. Now just look at the scenario, right? One BRD you have developed for the, let's say, for example, loan application. You develop it, you are running with the different stakeholders. Every stakeholder will keep on giving the input. You keep on making the changes. Again, you need to keep on running with all these stakeholders. Getting in everybody in the room to get it a sign off, it's not an easy, right? So you have to keep on running individually, keep on updating, keep on reading. It's become a cyclical. So you need to find out a right way that you're able to get the right inputs from all the stakeholders, able to align them into that objectives and get it fast done, right? And the last on the list, but one of the very critical is the change management process, because these programs will go through the multiple iteration, multiple kind of the changes, right? So either the scope has changed, or for example, you're going live, then the certain dimension of the change management process has to be followed. So how do you bring that entire the change management? And when you're rolling out also the digital initiative, how you're going to handle the change, that's very critical, right? So these are some of the challenges, and there are many, right? Entire the risk management part of it, we look at it, the audit and compliance part of it. So there will be multiple challenges, but just picking up some of these critical ones. So how do you set up the now entire that very effective program management? Like this becomes a very fundamental. So as a practice, again, guys, I'm talking about because running in the PMO and the earlier avatar, or say, for example, in the current consulting engagement, when we work with the various companies into their digital program initiatives, be it on any project initiatives, we follow those best practices, follow this entire the structure, and that's where the experience that I'm going to talk about. It's not coming from any of the books or anything, it's just from the experience and picking up some regulatory guidance which is available from the RBI guidelines, right? So having a strong program governance, right, entire the org structure that you set it up, well, like from the IT steering committee, or say, for example, a study committee or the project steering committee, project management committee, different structure with their properly defined terms of reference, like who will be doing what, and very clear KPIs defined for each other. So entire the program governance and lots of the all the other elements will fall into the program governance structure, right? How do you build that entire program charter? So each individual project charter has to be very clearly documented, defined. You may not need to create a bulky documents, but at least try to have a proper structure into the place. Then how do you work it out as a program management that create an entire strong leadership structure? Why is a strong leadership I'm talking about is because one of the very critical components comes as a part of the program management or running a program to make it deliver on the time and make it deliver on the with the quality is the decision making process. Many of the projects will require you to keep on taking a decisions at rapid pace, right? That can only happen when you have a very strong leadership structure, very strong power program governance structure, where you keep the stakeholder involved, keep them understand the different dimension of each of the decisions so that they can take in a very collective and informed decisions. So that's where the strong leadership structure will require, and put up in a very strong communication plan, right? Communication plan will involve multiple factors, right? So how the daily updates are going to happen, right? How the sync up between the different teams going to happen, right? So for example, one of the practice that we follow, and me and Deepak and we also been following one of the massive programs that we were running. That's case study Deepak will talk about as we move forward, where that we set it up in the structure of the daily huddle, right? All the 20 projects or 30 projects that we were running, we have a half an hour of the stand-up meeting with all the key stakeholders, picking up that, okay, what is agenda for the day, what is agenda for the yesterday, what did we have achieved, what not achieved, what are the issues, what are the challenges, can we just resolve it? So that's kind of the structure, communication sending back in the late in the evening or say maybe early in the morning so people know that where are we, right? What are the agenda for the day? What are the key tasks that need to be completed on a daily basis? But this may be the operational communication, right, on a daily basis, but also the management level of communication that you need to handle. So you will require to communicate to the steering committee, the project management committee, the entire the larger project team. Some of the places you will have the vendors, third parties also involved into the process. So how do you going to communicate to them, especially in the project? But when you're building the project communication plan, what are the elements that you need to take care of it? So one is definitely any status update, right? Very common, easily understand. But at the same time, what are the risks that you foresee, which are still open, that need a resolution, that need a management intervention? What are the open issues that currently the project is having? So issues and risk may be very different, right? Issues may be very operational in nature, while risk will be more like a strategy kind of thing, which may have a challenge on the projects, right? So those are the elements has to be introduced, right? So not only giving the updates, but not giving the bad pictures also, like what could be the issues which may derail the project timelines, the quality, cost, anything, right? Then put up in a good project management tools, as I was talking about the resourcing required, because each of the project may be running on the 100 lineups of the activities like sequential, parallels, right? Multiple dependencies, follow the each of the sequencing of the process activities and all the things. And when you're running on the multiple initiatives in parallel, let's say for example, multiple, let's say for example, Many times will happen that certain regulatory requirement has come up where that you need to upgrade the platforms because of the certain reason, like backend platform, maybe operating system or the database system. Then you will be running the multiple track. Or suddenly organization will go decided to move on the cloud. So then you will be moving the multiple application workload to the cloud. So there that you may be running the multiple tracks in parallel, right? So you require to have a very strong project management tool that will help, and which will also involve some kind of the mechanism where then you collaborate, right? And then the stakeholder participation in engagement. So how do you continue? So one of the elements that I spoke about having a huddle, right? But at the same time, how do you get the project management teams where the senior leaders of the technology teams or the digital teams or the product teams coming and interacting, understanding the project progress at the larger level, right? But at the same time, how do you communicate the executive committee, the senior management, the CEO level of the communication, or sometimes board level also, right? Because these are like just digital initiatives, digital programs, direct impact to the business. Then everybody need to understand, right? Having a rigorous review mechanism. This is very important. Asking tough questions during the reviews, looking at the projects, not going on a very soft on the things, asking a very tough questions, be it with respect to time, be it with respect to the, it could be also to your own involvement to the projects, right? What you have been contributing, how it has been impacting to that, still very getting detailed into the minute level of the review, because reviews process sometimes brings that very clarity, right? And sometimes it's open the door to fast track that some of the programs, right? So having a very rigorous review mechanism is very critical to the entire program management. And keep on working on the continuous improvement and the course corrections, right? You need to continue to improve in your processes, keep on course corrections. Also keep your staff and the customer communicated, like, for example, you're going for their migration and certain timelines that you have in mind. Maybe you want to have a communication to customers. Maybe you also try to communicate to the larger employees base also, right? And have, as a part of the program management, it's also very important that keep on celebrating some of these successes on the way, right? It doesn't matter that, like, okay, 6 months program is there or the 8 months program is there. You only celebrate when the things goes live, right? During the process also, like, say, for example, API's integration, you are trying to build it up, or like, for example, as a part of the loan setup, and you're able to connect to the, like, the bureaus, you're able to achieve that entire bureau report as a into your loan origination system onto your mobile application, go and celebrate, right? So keep on celebrating. Those are some of the elements. So I think, so again, I'll take a pause here, and I'll just see if any questions are there, any inputs are there, guys. Or am I going very fast? Or if any things that you want me to rerun onto the, I'm very happy to pick it up. And meanwhile, again, a request, my team Sakshi has put up on the feedback forms. Those who share the feedback form, we share that entire this presentation deck with you so that you can use it for your handy reference in future also. So please fill out the feedback form, because that's very important for us. That's always help us a lot, guys, and that means a lot. Okay, so I'll continue, and meanwhile, I'll again keep on waiting for the questions to come, right? So, okay, so I spoken about the effective program management. Now, typically, what are the steps that you need to follow when you are actually hit the ground, right? You have set up the project charter, you have set up the project plan, you have set up the project committees, and everything's now the game has started, right? Now you have into action, your integration, your development, your business requirement, everything has started, right? So first define that entire the digital project. Sorry, it's to define that entire the project management plan, put up the proper project risk register where you define that, identify the risk, put up the risk mitigation plan, be it on the scope related risk, be it on the cost related risk or the time related risk, vendor related partner, all that kind of the risk you have identified, documented, and put in the entire mitigation plan. You have already set up the communication plan that, okay, you will have the daily hurdles, who will attend the daily hurdles, daily communication, who will send, to whom all it will send, when the steering committee will happen. If in case you require to have an ad hoc steering committee, how you're going to do the ad hoc steering committee. how you're going to do the issue reports, like whether you're going to use the Jira or any similar kind of tools, and then continue to do the tracking on a daily basis. You're tracking all sort of the activities on a very minute level, try to continue to issue resolve, right? And continue to evaluate your continuity, like how the programs is progressing forward, right? Try to anticipate. You keep on close watch on the milestones, right? That's very important, right? Be it on the milestone of the getting the BRD sign off, be it a milestone of the closing the contract with the partner, be it on the milestone of, like, for example, the release of the MVP into the testing environment, right? Every milestone has to be tracked on a daily basis. Keep on generating the daily dashboard, put up and continue to perform the weekly and program level and the training level of the meetings. Be it could be individual programs level or the multiple programs level. You may have that training committee. You try to do that, whatever that you have defined as a part of the communication plus. Do it religiously, right? Even if there are like 30% or the 40%, 60% of the members are there, still you go and do that and report it as a part of the minutes. Closely continue to report on the minutes also on a daily basis, right? Each of the meetings, right? So many times you find it a very generic, right? Program management, nothing is a rocket science, but while doing it, actually the game changes, right? And it's statistically proven that most of the technology projects or the digital projects doesn't get complete on the time, right? So it's statistically clear. You might have experienced that you would have set up a 8 months plan, it gets 10 months, 12 months, right? That's a typical challenges are there because of its inherent complexities, right? Then keep on measuring the results, monitor the program progress, each of the streams, measure the impacts, and as I told the like, celebrate your success. So, right, each of the small wins, demonstrate the achievements, whatever you have achieved, go and tell to the team large, what did you learn through the process? What could have done better, right? And all these things. And that will it also help you to garner support much better from the team. So there are typical steps that you will follow. So that's where that the digital program management. What I will do that now, I'll hand over to Deepak. Deepak will get you through the one very complex that program that we run as for one of the bank, and that where the case study that we will talk about and how did we apply some of these principles when I run through in the programs, right? And finally, just a quick note on that, what we do in the digital program management as a consulting services. So we help the banks or any regulated entities or fintechs when they are driving any digital program, single projects, multiple projects, or anything internal or the partners driven. We set up the entire program management office, run those program projects, program plans, monitoring, help into the monitoring, making sure the project gets delivered on time, continue to issue risk identification, setting the program governance structure, collaboration partner program reviews. Well, these are like program management, but we also do lots of the implementations, help like building the BRD and helping them to roll out, closely working with the partners, development and design of the journeys and implementation of those journeys, or either platform evaluation, it could be the loan origination or any digital platforms, core banking, anything, right? So with this, I'll hand over to Deepak, but I'll see if there are any questions. Okay, what tools are used for running the PMO functions? So there are many tools, Sanjay. It could start from the Joho project plan or MS projects, very standard MS projects also it could be there. Or you can start using that some of the new gen tools like Asana, which is again, it's a tools which you can start using the multiple projects, multiple tracks. So there are many tools are there, which allow you to run these PMO functions actually more from the program management perspective. You may not find out one single tools which will help you to track the multiple activities. Like, so for example, these are the tools I'm talking about will help you to run the project plans. While like Slack is like again common tools which you can run the multiple tracks, multiple channels, multiple things for internal communication among the teams, sharing of the documents, and all these things. So, or say, for example, issue management on the risk management, the Jira could be another very good tools that typically people will be using it. So every time the tool is there. So there are multiple tools are there. So project management to the collaborations to the issues management tools and all these things. I hope it answers. So Deepak, I think I've taken lots of your times. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Shashank. Shashank, do you want me to share the screen from my side or?
Yeah, I think that would be much better. And again, guys, a sincere request for you, and you have always been a great support for us. please share your feedbacks, and we're definitely gonna share
Sakshi
your.
or Akash, can you please enable screen sharing, please? Yeah, got it. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much, Shashank. And as we've been going through the complexities as well as the steps that we need to do in the program management, let me run through you with you one of the on one of the very complex program that we've actually managed. This transformation program was for a small finance bank, and the complexities included multiple things. And when I mean complexities here, it was as good as setting up a new bank, because the whole of the banking ecosystem was running on a cloud, which was actually completely multi-party contracted format, wherein all the applications that were running and all the data was actually in a third-party data storage. And the bank did not own any DC as of that day, and they only had a sharing DC. So imagine the level of complexities when we had to set up the whole DC. The procurement had to be tracked at the whole infrastructure level, right from the servers that are to be taken, right from the storage that was to be purchased. And from there on, we had to also manage new network lines that were meeting the RBI guidelines. That is one, I mean, two parallel network lines running and one failover network line, which is available between both DC and DR, that was to be parallelly set up. And from there on, there were around 56 applications that were being used by the bank, and we had identified that somewhere around 8 to 10 applications had to be decommissioned and they were not being utilized by the bank. From there on, the bank has also decided to revamp the whole security stack that they had set up, and we had to help them scope in what kind of tools that were to be used. And from there on, the implementation of the sequential implementation of the security tools was to be planned. And from there on, there was also the complexity of where we had to completely transform their core banking system, their complete payment stack, and their complete treasury setup, along with every other application that was there. One great thing that we could identify was somewhere around 20 applications were more rather lift and shift, which was, we had the whole stack and everything set up. So they didn't need any data migration. We had to just take them from the current third party data center and move them to the current data center, which was actually being set up. But imagine this was the situation where the Ukraine war just came in and the whole chip shortage and everything came in. So the whole infrastructure that we've ordered from the specific manufacturers couldn't arrive on time, and we had to parallelly run in for whole of temporary stack that was to be maintained. And this temporary stack had to be pulled in from the local sources. And from there on, the whole program was split into 6 different tracks, wherein we were running the whole program management as a separate track, wherein even the program management team was responsible for their actionables that were to be taken. And from there, we have taken the whole infra track as a separate thing, tracking all the inventory that was actually ordered for the bank. And imagine there was, few of the stack was actually being proposed to run an experimental stack, and we actually advise the bank to go back to a proven stack, wherein the support levels available in the ecosystem will always be at the highest level, and to ensure that the whole transformation project is going to be succeeded. One major point that everyone should take care during the digital transformation is that during the digital transformation, we should not be willing to do any experimental setup as such. This has to be taken out of the scope of digital transformation. All the experiments have to be concluded, and from there on, only once there is a proven stack, then we have to go into the digital transformation attempt. And from there on, we also tracked whole of the core banking transformation as such as a completely different track, because imagine the level of complexity wherein your core banking is being transformed, and there are around 48 applications which were to be migrated to a new data center. And all of this was being run where the bank was running as usual, and no business disruption was ever observed. Neither a single customer complained that they were unable to utilize the services. Neither a single branch went down on any given single day, apart from the permitted RTO and RPO times of the RBI, and everything was done as per the procedure. And imagine every 2 weeks there was a migration plan, and almost like 3 to 4 applications were being migrated. And whole of the setup was planned in such a way that we've identified applications which were running very independently first. We've moved them to the newer data center, tested the whole security setup that was actually established. And from there on, ensuring that the whole data center is safe and the whole services can be utilized, we've taken the most biggest applications which had the highest dependencies. So from there on, that was the massive phase of the transformation program, wherein we've taken somewhere around 16 applications in the same phase, and we've been doing the whole transformation. This included their treasury stack, this included their payment stack, which was being transformed. And from there on, once these were, this was also again planned in an agile manner, wherein the whole basic tool setup was taken to the new banking system. And from there, as per the requirements of the mobile banking situation or the internet banking situation or the tabular banking situation, we had to orchestrate several APIs to suit the customers as per the intent of that particular journey. And all those things were taken place. And from there on, we've taken to several other applications which are more simpler in use, which were more of a value add for the banking services to run, which included services like FRM services, AML services, which are already configured in the previous ecosystem. And imagine there was a situation where the whole tool stack completely, which was underlying, had to be revamped because the vendor is no longer supporting the previous version which was being utilized by the bank. So we had to change the whole banking structure, and the whole team which was actually doing the migration of that particular application had to be trained on how this particular newer version is required, what are the dependencies for that, and whole of the dependencies in the backend with respect to several other application setup had to be revamped again. So those kind of changes which were to be taken on the fly and ensured that this whole of the migration is done still as per the plan. And once the payment stack and everything is ready, uh, NPCI rolled out the newer guidelines which were to be mapped from the banking side. So though we had a newer stack which was being run, we had to completely map to the revamped guidelines. And in the whole 7 or 8 months of migration time, the rules changed kind of like 3 times, and we had to map the regulations every time and ensure that we were at the highest level of the efficiency on the payment stack from there on. And and there was also complexity where we were trying to host the revamped mobile banking application onto the platform, and Google has rolled out their new strategy, which actually included the highest level of security compliance, which was mandated by RBI, which also had the 3 weeks of testing time for the application to be hosted. This was all happening during the phase of the program, and we had to start planning things in parallel. The more we streamlined, the more actionables came in between. And imagine the whole project started with 2,000 actionable items that we started tracking, and somewhere down the line, somewhere around 4 months of the program into it, actually became a 6,000 line item actionables which were to be closely tracked. And imagine all this being tracked in 5 to 6 different tracks, wherein neither your core banking services could stop, neither your payment services could stop, and all the banking activities had to run business as usual with no disruption in the services. And from there on, when we started doing the core banking transformations, we actually had to do the data migration multiple times, because the data that is hosted in the core banking structure actually takes a more value as compared to any other payment stack, right? So we've actually done around 5 to 6 different times of data migration strategy that was to be that had to be tested out. To do this very successfully, we actually established a strong program governance structure, wherein we were doing the daily huddles as we were discussing in the earlier part of the session. And these huddles actually panned across all the tracks that we established, and it covered all the applications that were in the scope of that phase of migration. And from there on, it actually went on to the serialized activities which had to be completed, which had rather dependencies on the next phase readiness that were to be done. And we had to track all the dependencies. Imagine the program plan actually moving from 2,000 line items to the 5,000 to 6,000 line items, and we had to track close dependencies. And these dependencies had further impact on the next level of migration that was happening, or the same phased migration that was actually planned. So we actually had to ensure that every person who's actually working onshore, somewhere around 250 people onshore and somewhere around 350 to 400 people working offshore, to have the same level of domain expertise and technology skills to ensure whole of the project scoping was done properly and whole of the transformation was happening as per the plan. And in case there were any issues which were to be prioritized and the resolution had to be done at the same time, we had to ensure that there was no time delay that was actually happening. And from there on, we were actually having a greater communication plan, wherein every hour there was an update that was actually being sent over the emails to the required stakeholders to actually map them with the activities that are actually running in parallel. And on the days of migration, we actually had to do somewhere around 72 hours of straight migration on the day of core banking migration. And the whole of communication plan was set up in such a way that every 3 hours the stakeholders met, understanding what is the progress, what were the blockers that were to be completed. And from there on, every 12 hours there was a steering committee plan that was actually ensured, and they were communicated on the whole of the progress that was happening and the blockers that were to be handled. And while running all this particular program, we had initiated the risk management register right from day one, wherein we were tracking all the risks that were associated with this program and the interdependencies which had higher complexities mentioned in the risk, identifying the mitigation plan that was to be run at the highest level. And imagine at the peak of this particular program, there was a massive COVID outbreak and everyone had to switch on the fly from next day to start working from home. And irrespective of all these things running in the backend, none of the program actually got tampered, and we could ensure that the whole of the program could be completed successfully. And one major achievement that we could actually achieve was completing the whole core banking transformation in 8 months, which was actually a record-breaking time. In general, the core banking transformations basis the scope of the particular project takes somewhere around 12 to 18 months for a small sized bank, and somewhere around 18 to 36 months based on a big sized bank. And yet completing everything in 8 months is still a massive record that we could achieve during this transformation. And to ensure that all these digital transformation activities in banking setup or a fintech setup are being taken at the highest level of priority, we can ensure that, we need to establish a very strong program management office. We have to execute the regular agile meetings that have to be established, and the complete steering committee has to be identified, and the drive has to be not just from the top down, but it has to be across the whole team which has been identified to be a part of this migration activity. And the management committee has to form several core teams which are actually identified. Let's say your infra team needs to have a core team which kind of is an expert to handle any kind of issue that is actually coming on the fly. And sometimes around there is a late night migration which is happening, and somewhere around 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the late night you actually experience an issue which needs to be solved then and there. So this core team then which is identified comes into play, which actually kind of resolves the issue as soon as possible for the migration to happen then and there. And there has to be a strong partner management system, because these kind of programs run with somewhere around 100 to 150 partners being working together at the same time. You have management services partners, you have audit partners working, you also have the tool implementers working, you also have the program planners working, and there are also other teams which are working on the ground, which are actually working to connect your infrastructure, laying down your network cables, and several other activities. So there needs to be a strong program drive that is actually taken care during this particular thing. And there uh, all the applications which are actually subjected to migration might have a need to do a data migration. And basis the requirement, we need to plan the data migration activities. We need to do sample migrations and ensure that there is no data loss that is expected or which can be envisioned. And if at all there are any risks that are to be tackled, it has to be tackled during these the testing times itself. And we've ensured that all new lift and all the migrations, even though it is just a lift and shift or it is just a direct migration, had a UAT which actually was tested thoroughly, and ensured the security audit was also taken place, and ensured that no security bugs were present when the application was going live. And just taking a couple of questions. In case there are any questions, please do let us know.
I think, there's no question.
Yeah.
But
And yes, Shashank.
continue.
Yeah. So this particular
And so maybe we just try to close.
Sure. So this particular massive project could be achieved through the regular issue logging mechanism, which was actually resolved within the stipulated assigned time for each and every issue. Basis the high priority issue to be solved within less than 2 hours. So we've actually been tracking the SLAs of each and every particular issue that actually came across, and the communication plan across all the partners that were actually involved in this transformation was taken care. And from there on, the risk mitigations which were planned, if at all they were subject to be missing at that particular stipulated time, it was notified to the management. And in terms, let's say there was a new plan that was to be devised, we have also taken care of the parallel plan that could be devised and ensure that there is a, I mean, though we might not require us very often, but there requires to be a proper escalation matrix that is to be established, so that whenever there is a problem, we could actually start working on it through the right channels, rather than making it a big mess on the floor, because it needs to be only go through the stakeholders which they actually need to know. Otherwise, there is no point everyone knowing about a particular issue on one particular application, which only is subjected to 2 or 3 partners involvement, rather than 150 partners who are notified to this particular issue that has actually come across. So that way we could actually achieve this whole transformation project in a stipulated amount of time. The client did not experience any outages, and the whole of banking as of today is ready for the new age banking, and the bank is going through the revamping of their new products, and are coming up with creative and innovative ways to onboard customers.
Thank you, Deepak. So, guys, that was our just short view on that digital program management. We are happy to pick up any questions. We are almost end of the time limit, but we are there. Me and Deepak are there. If any question, any challenges that you might be facing, or maybe you want to share your experience, very happy, which can help the others. If you want to talk, you may raise your hand, and then we'll enable the speak mic. Meanwhile, again, I request you all to please share your feedback. Thank you very much. So if no questions, then we take a permission. So we'll close the sessions. Thank you all. Thank you for your participation and patiently listening to us. You all always been encouraging to us to keep on doing more and more knowledge sessions. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Deepak. Thank you.
Thank you, Shashank.